My name is Jack Basley. I'm a solution engineer from Celonis. We are a relatively young company. We started in Munich, and we are the market leaders in process mining. And today, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of who we are, what we do, and of course what process mining is, because it's a relatively new technology. But the bulk of the time, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a live demo on some anonymized customer data to show you the type of value that you can drive from Celonis and ServiceNow across those two platforms. So the first thing I'd like to do is talk about a couple of economic drivers and the imperative to change, the imperative to become more digital that we see across the market. And these two economic drivers for us are customer expectation and productivity. And these will sound familiar to you. I think you've probably heard a fair bit about this already today. But I just wanted to share one personal story around customer expectations. Does anyone here bank with Monzo, or you've heard of Monzo, the bank? Yep, a few hands. They've got that sort of hot coral card. I think you could probably see it from space. I get strange looks occasionally when I flash it at a store. But I'm also a Monzo customer, a very happy, satisfied Monzo customer, and that's because when I moved to the UK last October, I needed to open a bank account to get paid, to pay rent, to do all that basic stuff that we need to do to get through life. So I went up to the high street. I went to a high street bank and I said, I'd like to open a current account, please. And they said, great, we'd love for that to happen. Just book an appointment in 2 weeks' time. You can come back and then we'll get you started. Bring your ID. It'll be probably 2 weeks after that until we can send you your card, all that kind of thing. So I said, no, that really won't work for me. I went across the road to another high street bank and they said, right, well, what we can do is we can assign you a personal concierge who's going to help you get through all this process together. So you can meet with them first up. And I said, great, when can I meet with them? They said, 3 weeks is the next available slot for a 15-minute meeting. I said, no, that's not going to work for me. A mate sent me a link because he told me about Monzo. He sent me a link on my phone. I spent about 10 minutes putting my information in. I took a photo of myself with my passport, took a selfie, and sent it off. The next day, the very next day, my Monzo card, my pink Monzo card arrived in the post. I tapped it on the back of my phone and I was a Monzo customer. So it literally took 24 to 36 hours to onboard me as a customer with Monzo versus the high street banks, which were taking weeks. And what Monzo does really effectively, and what other companies like Uber do really effectively, is they differentiate on process. Monzo, I don't bank with Monzo for the card color, just like I don't drive with Uber or ride with Uber because of the price necessarily. I'm actually going with them because of the impact they have on my life, which is freeing me up to do more of the things that I like with a seamless process, and that is true customer centricity. And productivity, well, I think we all know the challenges of productivity. The stat that we like to talk about is that 12% of the Fortune 500 companies in 1950 are still around today. So they've either been innovated out of existence or they've been swallowed up by transformation in technology. So to be able to repoint your company, to be able to stay with trends, you need to be productive, agile, and lean. And Celonis helps you do that. And these are just a handful of our 500 customers that we've helped to become more customer-centric and more productive. In particular, I'd pull out a company like Uber because we actually help Uber with their customer service management. Uber uploads terabytes of data into our intelligent business cloud, and that data is all around complaints and incident resolution. So whenever you make a complaint that your Uber driver took you the wrong way or they had bad breath or whatever it may be, actually, Uber wants to address that really quickly. Again, they're a company that focuses on process and customer centricity, and so part of that is to make sure that they have an efficient customer service program or process. And I can talk about customer success stories probably for an hour by itself, but I just want to talk about one as well, which is Siemens. And this man, T Nguyen, in particular, he led their process mining effort, and Siemens is one of our biggest customers. And in 16 months, him along with 2 other people, they went around the world. They found 7 million manual activities and automated those, just a team of 3 people. And the value that they were able to bring to Siemens was $15 million per year. That's the estimated savings that they've made by leveraging the power of process mining and then translating that into automation opportunities to reduce rework, to increase throughput time, and to make their processes much more efficient and much more valuable. So what is process mining? I think it's probably a good point to come to that. Fundamentally, everyone knows here that we have IT systems that we use to run our business. So we use SAP for our resource planning and maybe some financial stuff. We might use Salesforce for our customer relationship management and for selling. We might use ServiceNow for HR, for IT service management, whatever it may be. And every time our users touch one of these systems, they create a digital footprint. Every time they create a quote, every time they log a ticket, every time they reassign a ticket, for instance, that gets logged as a digital footprint within the system. Now, Celonis uses out-of-the-box connectors to pull that data out of these source systems, as well as any custom system that you might have, to pull that data and to understand what's really happening within these systems and how these systems are actually contributing to inefficiency or how your process is inefficient using that system data. And last year we launched the Intelligent Business Cloud, which is more than just understanding and uncovering what's going wrong within your business processes. The Intelligent Business Cloud is underpinned by process mining technology. But as I mentioned, we have out-of-the-box connectors that collect that event data, that transform it into a way that makes it visualizable for the users. We do discovery and analytics on that. We use out-of-the-box analyses, and we have an app store as well, whereby we have a lot of templates so you can download and analyze different areas of your process. It might be something like segregation of duties for audit. It might be throughput time. It might be automation, robotic process automation. You can download these applications from our app store and point them at your process to understand where the value are, where the risks are, all that kind of thing. And then at the end of the process, which is what I'll show you, we have an action engine which actually recommends predictively what activities and what actions you should take to make your process more efficient. So with that, I'll get into our demo. And we're going to imagine, if we will, that I'm part of an IT service management team. Let's say that I'm the boss, I'm the head of the IT service management team. And what I've done here is I've logged into Celonis using my ServiceNow credentials, and I'm only allowed to see the data that I'm able to see in ServiceNow as well. So we've copied that access level security across. And what we're looking at here is assignments in particular of ServiceNow tickets. We're going to look at status just after, but we're looking at 320,000 different tickets with an average resolution time of 28 hours. And most of these tickets, you can see 197,000 of them are going directly to the service desk, and then they're finished. They're only being assigned once. Whilst this is quite good, this is what we'd hope to see. This is only the case for 197,000, 61% of our cases. And actually, if we look down the bottom right, we've got 1,600 different variants, so 1,600 different ways that a ticket will flow through our system in terms of its assignment. So if we look at the next most common, we can see self-service, great, 30,000 tickets through self-service, and then they're finished. And we look at the next one, server operations, fantastic, good. But what we start to uncover as we open a few more of these different variants is some of those multi-hops. And these multi-hops are happening 1% of cases, but they're still happening 5,000 times across the course of a year, across the course of a month, whatever it may be. If we look at our sixth most common variant, we actually find a sort of strange kind of variant that's taking us 19 hours, and where we're going to the service desk, that's being passed to application support, to operating system support, back to the service desk, and then the process is ending. And whenever this happens, we collect timestamp information. And so what we're actually able to do is determine what the throughput time impact is of a variant like that. And we can see that typically, if we're to flow, let's say number 4, we're taking 6 hours to go from service desk to server operations, but we can see the average impact in terms of time, in terms of throughput time, when we follow a more inefficient variant like this and we start to get those multi-hops creeping into our system. If We keep extending this and we look at all 1,600 variants, all 1,600 different ways that our tickets can be assigned in the system. This is fairly typical of what we see with most customers and with most processes. Last week I was at a company and we had 11,000 different ways that they process procurement orders through their systems. And so this is typically the sort of dropped bowl of spaghetti that we get from processes. I think there's this kind of assumption that our processes are neat and clean, but really when you harvest the data and you look at how things are actually flowing through your system, you see high level inefficiencies and then you see a lot of noise and a lot of mess underneath it as well. So I'll take you through just a few analyses just to get you a feel for it, but you're more than welcome to come and chat with us upstairs as well. This is a Multihop module. As I said, this is typical of what you could pull down from our app store. And let's say that we want to have a look at that funny variant that we saw before that was taking several hours, where we're flowing from service desk to application support to ops system support back to the service desk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter on that. So now we're only looking at that 3.8K tickets in particular. And whilst it's good to know that this is inefficient, what we also want to know is where this is occurring across the business. And that's why we can add our different dimensions in here. And we can say, for instance, that the vast majority of these tickets that are flowing through this variant have come from our phone rather than the chat. So we're going to filter on that. Our filters are breadcrumbing up here. And then we can say, right, well, which country is this occurring in? For instance, we can see that, well, Chile and the United States, they're sort of over-indexing. They're higher than we would hope them to be. And we can also check how this has happened over time. So we can see that we had a big spike maybe 10 weeks ago. But in the last 2 weeks, well, let's have a look at that in particular. We're only seeing 80 different cases, but 72 of these are coming from our firewall. So we're seeing multi-hops. We're seeing a lot of time spent on firewall tickets, particularly in the last 2 weeks in these countries. So we've been really able to drill down dynamically and fast in order to understand both what that high-level inefficiency is and then the root cause and where it's existing within our business. What we can then do is look at the detail of that ticket. We can click on it. It will take us back to ServiceNow if we sort of enable that dynamic linking as well. So that's one example of the multi-hops. The other thing that we might want to do is focus on this from a multi-hop first perspective. So any time that we have more than 3 hops, for instance, in a ticket, we can actually filter on that and just show those tickets that are bad behaviours, where they're hopping around all over the place, so to speak. Again, if we can see that, well, desktop is a big one for multi-hops, we can filter down and say, well, let's look at the UK, for instance. And we can see how we're performing across different weeks. We can then see where these have been assigned as well, so where they've been incorrectly assigned to the assignment group. And we can really dynamically drill down and find where those pain points are, again, like I said. So I'll show you one last thing on assignments. I'll remove these filters. This is our benchmarking capability, another module that we have. And here we're comparing service desk tickets versus self-service tickets. We could compare assignment groups and how they're processing things. We could compare CI classes. We could compare any kind of different dimension of the business that you want to. And what we find interesting with this analysis, first of all, is our KPIs. We would expect self-service. We've put it in to try and reduce throughput time, to try and reduce the cost of tickets. But actually we see that these KPIs are all red. Compared to when we're sending a ticket directly to the service desk, we've got a much higher resolution time, we've got a higher average ticket cost. And interestingly, the most common variant for this customer, when they sent something to the self-service desk, was that it would end up at the service desk. So they're able to uncover these things. You know, we often might implement something like a self-service portal to help us to make things more efficient, but that doesn't always play out. And being able to benchmark different things against different areas of the business is a really effective way to understand how we're doing collectively across the business. So I'm going to run you through very quickly, because I'm running out of time already, status as well. We looked at assignments and how different things can be jumping around the business from an assignment perspective, but we can also look at status, the status of our ServiceNow tickets. So again, it's the same story. We've got our sort of happy path, our most common variant. But this is representing, this is only representing 42% of our cases, and actually we've got 4,000 different variants, different status variants that a ticket could take. So if we look at our second most common, we can see that we're awaiting user info. Well, what is the time impact of that? It's 50 hours on average between when we start awaiting the user info and when that ticket is resolved, versus 1 hour on average if we flow directly from a signed ticket to the resolved state. Again, we play this out. We find a lot of our areas of inefficiency. Change category is taking us 24 hours. That might relate to a reassignment, or it might relate to a CI class category. But that's costing us in terms of throughput time. So we can again drill down on which of these different areas of the business are costing us in terms of throughput time and in terms of effort. If we look at incident resolution time, again, we might have an SLA that's for, say, 18 hours. And we really quickly dynamically filter to understand where this SLA is being breached and what the underlying root causes of it are. So we might look at CI class first of all, and firewall, let's say, for instance, because that's very important, and we can see that the throughput time for that on average is 21 hours, the resolution time, I should say. If we then look at something like priority, then we can see that 7 of these 7 of these firewall tickets that are taking us a long time are actually high priority. So we can drill down into those, and then we can go to the incident details again. And most of them are coming from Australia, so someone's at the beach, obviously. So the last thing I want to show you, actually 2 more things I want to show you because I have a little bit of time, is our Conformance tool. And I'm sure most people in here will recognise this. It's a very simple business process model. And what Celonis can actually do is it can ingest a process model that's much more complicated than this one, from Ares, from Visio, from any kind of BPMN tool that you use. You can also create one from scratch. It has a business process editor, a business process model editor, and you can actually mine it from your happy path. So you can take the data in the way that we did before our discovery engine, and you can create a business process model off the back of that. You can edit it to make it the way you want, and then you can actually analyse how you're performing against that business process model. And this is a module that our customers really love, because what we can do is say now with absolute confidence that we're conforming to our business process model in only 42% of our cases. And this is our designed model, but we're not conforming to it more often than we are. We can say that when we don't conform, this is increasing our resolution time or our throughput time. In this case, it's increasing it by 2.5 days. And it's also increasing the number of steps per case. And steps per case means more manual handling per case. It means more time, someone sat at a terminal answering that request, looking things up, gathering information, and being more inefficient, not by their own means, but by the system. What Celonis will also tell us is where those violations are occurring. We're awaiting user info, we're changing priority, and it will tell us some of those root causes about why this is happening within the business, and importantly where it's happening. So the very last thing I'd like to show you is our Action Engine. And I mentioned this a little bit with our Intelligent Business Cloud, but the Action Engine was actually developed in concert with one of our customers, Schlumberger, who manufacture oil drilling equipment. And the Schlumberger CEO said to our CEO, hey, we really love Celonis in the business. It's got great reps. We're able to discover where the inefficiencies are within our procurement process and some of our other processes. We're able to diagnose root causes. He said, but what I'd really love to do is for you to tell me what the next best thing to do is. How can my people make our processes more efficient day to day with using our systems? And so from that, the Action Engine was born. And what we have within the Action Engine is lots of different signals which are created off the back of those process inefficiencies that we found in our discovery engine. So if we look at a few of them here, and these are IT service management specific, but what the Action Engine has done is it's used a little bit of machine learning and a bit of pattern recognition to tell us proactively that this reporter group, plant production, service desk, has addressed 23% of their tickets in the last 30 days to second level support or higher. So these are what we call Hey Joe tickets, for anyone that's not familiar with that, where you have a friend in IT who may or may not be called Joe, and whenever you have a problem, you just send it to Joe because he'll sort it out. And these are not best practice, these are inefficient. And what Celonis has been able to do is actually proactively tell us, using a bit of pattern recognition, that this is happening. We can analyse these reports then in Celonis. We can find out the user that's responsible for these, and we can actually address it in a proactive and forward way. One other quick example of a signal is ticket reassignment. So this ticket is currently assigned to the service group desk, but based on the CI class and the description, it should be assigned to desktop support. So what we can do from here, the CI class is a laptop, but we're at the service desk. We can actually prompt our users to do this, or we could actually deploy some automation using a separate tool off the back of insights like this in order to make sure that this is correctly assigned. Again, we can click on this. It will take us directly to ServiceNow with that information pre-filled, and then we can action that straight away. So that demo was about IT service management, but Celonis is really powerful across many different business processes. We're particularly strong with purchase to pay, order to cash, those kind of, more financial processes. But we also work a lot with production planning, with plant maintenance, with things like incident management, customer service, and we're able to pull data from many different systems for a certain process to quickly understand and provide insights into that process. What we also like to do is when we're sort of selling, our solution to customers is provide a proof of value. And I showed you a little bit of data from ServiceNow. I can literally bring that data into Celonis from a ServiceNow instance in a matter of minutes. If we have a direct connection to SAP, it's probably a matter of hours. But you're not talking about those kind of multi-month engagements to conduct an analytics activity. Our pre-built connectors have really fast time to value, and that means that we're able to often demonstrate the value of our software to customers as part of a proof of value. Here, in these proof of value, we'll talk about value assessment, so how much inefficiency is there within your process, what are the benefits of automating that type of thing. We talk about organisational fit, how are you currently set up to manage processes to make them more efficient, and we also talk about return on investment and create that compelling narrative to make your processes and your business more efficient and more effective. So that's all from me. I hope you found this session engaging. As I said, there's a few of us upstairs. There's Andy and Adam and John. They're mostly friendly most of the time. So please come up and see us. We can talk about other different areas. I think I gave you really a tip of the iceberg view of the product functionality. But with that, I'd welcome any questions that you might have. Yeah, so that's a good question. We try to go cloud first whenever we can, and with that, we're ISO 27001 certified. We have encryption for data in transport and at rest. We do sort of take that very seriously. I think as well we're a cloud platform, but each of our tenants, our customers' data is in its own cloud environment. So there's separation. But some of our more our more privacy-conscious customers like banks, they will also implement they'll leave their data on-premise and then run it in an on-premise environment.